Video is just to follow up on the last one, on a few things that I left out that I wanted to talk about. So in this video I just wanted to go over sort of narcolepsy in my early childhood, so my own experience, and sort of the symptoms and things that happened and that I observed from then on, which helped me to put the puzzle pieces together to realise later in life that it was narcolepsy related. Also wanted to talk about some of the lesser known complications that happen with narcolepsy in terms of function and things like that, and some of the adaptations that can occur as well. I wanted to briefly go over medications a little bit more in depth, and lastly about some of the aids and support that someone with narcolepsy will access and can access to help manage the condition. So starting off in my early childhood, my first symptoms of narcolepsy started around the age of 4 or 5. At this time, you know, that those kind of symptoms and issues aren't uncommon in children, but the fact that they persisted throughout the rest of my life sort of made them narcolepsy related. So one of the first things that I dealt with as a child was sleep paralysis. So waking up in the middle of the night and not being able to move my body. It was really scary. I had the sort of telltale signs as well. Some people have talked about it sort of over the ages, with things like, you know, supernatural, having that sleep demon sitting on your chest trying to push you down. That's how it was explained as a child, and you know, people without narcolepsy do experience sleep paralysis, but that was one of the signs of narcolepsy for me as a child. Another thing was I would have hypnagogic and hypnopompic hallucinations. Basically, your brain blending dream into your waking life, usually while going into sleep and coming out of sleep. So for me, this presented in the daytime when I was a child, falling asleep and getting sleepy. I would see things that weren't really there. So I'd often see cats. I did love cats. I always had a cat, and I'd see that quite often during the day, especially during the time of day when I would get tired. This would also happen as I would be falling asleep at night, and my family were it was quite scary for them, because as a child I would start having these hallucinations not long after my mother would put me to bed, and I would be screaming. I'd have my eyes open, but I couldn't see anyone around me. I would see the dream, which for me was a dream of what I thought was hell. And not only did I see it, I could feel it. I felt like I was being crushed, and it was a place that was grey and hot. And so not only do you see things, but you experience them as well. This happened quite a lot to me as a child, and it was concerning for my family, because, you know, my eyes would be wide open every time it would happen. We didn't know it was narcolepsy, so we dismissed it away. Maybe it was just, you know, normal childhood issues. And, you know, as it persisted throughout my life, we thought it was just something supernatural. Maybe I was really sensitive to these kinds of things, so that's why they would happen. That's what we sort of put it down to. Now it ceased for a little while, until I was a teenager. At that time, as a teenager, your emotions are all over the place. So when I was really sort of emotional, it would happen. It would happen more. And I just fobbed it off and, put it down to some supernatural stuff. A big reason I think why it didn't happen for a large chunk of the years there until my teen years was probably because through that time I was repressing my emotions. So because my sort of experience of emotions was dulled, it didn't get to the point where I would get so emotional that the hallucinations would come on. So that sort of followed me throughout my life, and now as an adult I've obviously gotten better at controlling my emotions. So it really only happens when I sort of let go of the leash, and I know if I've had quite a emotional day or something really traumatic has happened, I know there's a likelihood that I might have a hallucination before I go to bed. So it's not as scary for me because I expect it now. And if there is someone around me, I sort of let them know beforehand that, if I start screaming in bed and my eyes are, really wide open and I'm not responding to you, it's likely because I'm having that hallucination. Some of the lesser known complications that can occur with narcolepsy and sort of the effects are, let me think, things like, so I have read in a few studies and a few scientific journals that when the hypocretin system in the brain for sleep-wake cycles is compromised, it has sort of a trickle effect to other systems in the brain. So some of them are things like having a slower metabolism, so your body doesn't use energy as well. That's certainly been the case with me until I got into sort of health and exercise. I would just look at food and put on weight. I have to be really careful with my portions, and I can eat less than the normal person just to maintain my weight. So that's another thing to keep in mind. There are other things like there is information out there to suggest that what would you call it, sort of reward system part of the brain can be affected. So it's been suggested in some information out there that a person with narcolepsy is a little bit less likely to, experience addiction or becoming addicted to things, and they can sort of quit a habit a lot easier than the usual person. That's certainly been the case with me. I have been a smoker, and every time that I've given up, it's been cold turkey, and it's been quite easy. A lot of other sort of habits that I've been able to kick quite easily. So that's been the case with me, and that could just be individual. It could be, to do with sort of my upbringing and, having quite a strict and routine, sort of childhood and things like that. So another suggestion that I've come across is that Sorry, I'm just trying to collect all of the information that I wanted to talk about. What was it? It was an adaptation. Oh, that's right. It's been written, and testimony from a few people with narcolepsy out there has suggested that the use of dopamine in the brain can kind of, not directly, but sort of be used as the hypocretin chemical in the brain that's either missing or lacking a little bit in the brain of people with narcolepsy, can be used sort of in place of it, or to kind of stop the sleepiness. So, in layman's terms, exercise, there's been quite a few people in narcolepsy groups that have said that exercising and the dopamine that's released from the exercise can kind of keep them awake a little bit longer. Definitely the case with me, as I've always been quite active, so I do find that when I go to the gym every day, I get a little bit more wakefulness for maybe an hour or so after the exercise. So that's really interesting. So using the sort of dopamine pathways to gain some wakefulness can be quite helpful. On the medication side, I just wanted to talk more about sort of how stringent you have to be to get your medication to work the best for you. So for me, for example, the sodium oxybate that I take at night to get a bit of wakefulness during the day, that will only work if I fall asleep naturally and it's in my system. If I were to go to bed tonight and I wasn't sleepy enough and I took my medication and it took me like an hour or two to get to sleep, most of the sodium oxybate will be sort of used up or becoming less concentrated in my system, which will mean that if I was to eventually fall asleep, the medication wouldn't work as well, or sometimes not at all, because the time that it's active in your body is usually 2 to 4 hours per dose, and you take 2 at night. So I've had a lot of nights where that's happened, and I've woken up without any wakefulness, and those days are some pretty rough days. So that kind of sucks. You can plan the perfect night's sleep. You can have a quiet room, dark room. Maybe a loud noise happens outside and you've just fallen asleep and you wake up while the sodium oxybate's in your system, and you try really tirelessly to get back to sleep and you can't. You've basically wasted that first dose. So that can be quite frustrating, and it means that you have to really be stringent with your sleep hygiene and making sure that you account for, anything that can pull you out of sleep or stop you from going to sleep. So for me, I make sure that I wear an eye mask with headphones in it, so that the constant sound in the headphones will block out anything going on outside the house or outside my room, so that I can stay asleep. That's been the most helpful for me. Another thing I wanted to talk about was aids, or things that someone with narcolepsy can use to make their life a bit easier and to manage their condition a bit better. So one of them I am using and wearing right now, which is my MedAlert necklace. On the flip side, it says cataplexy, and it talks a little bit about what to do if I have a fall. I looked for this because there were quite a few times where I had a cataplexy attack in public, and because I couldn't respond, people thought I was having seizures or heart attack or lots of different things. And I learnt a really expensive lesson when I was a bit younger, where it happened at work 3 times in 1 week, and they called an ambulance every time, and I had to pay for that ambulance. So to try and stop that, I've got this. It's not foolproof. Sometimes people don't look for it, but I try and make sure that it's visible, especially when I get a bit of a warning that I'm about to have a cataplexy attack. Another thing that I keep on hand, especially if I'm out during the day and I'm starting to have a sleep attack or feel really sleepy that walking is quite difficult, I have a walking stick. It took me a long time to sort of swallow my pride and carry it around with me. One thing I was worried about is because, I look like a fit, youngish kind of man, that people would look at me strange with this guy carrying a walking stick and thinking, there's nothing wrong with him, why is he carrying that? But once I got over that sort of embarrassment, I am so glad I have it, because there are a lot of times where I'll be out and I might sit down too long. And that's another thing with people with narcolepsy is you can be awake or have, quite a bit of wakefulness if you sit for too long. And a lot of other people with narcolepsy have said this. It can bring on a sleep attack. So it's kind of like if you are awake, you've got to keep your brain active. So there's been a few times where I've sat down too long, maybe to read something or to have a little sit down and rest, and I've gone to get up and I've been too tired to walk. So having that walking stick has been really helpful in those situations, and especially if I'm fine, I'm really awake and I feel okay. Sometimes I might go to a shopping centre or a place where I know I might bump into someone that might cause a bit of strong emotion or surprise. So sometimes I'll just carry my walking stick with me just in case. And that helps sort of break my fall when I do fall. And also with the walking stick, if people miss my necklace, the walking stick kind of communicates to them and indicates to them that there is sort of a health condition there with me. So I know when I've had the walking stick, it has helped people to look a bit more closely and to notice my necklace. So there's lots of other things. Some people out there have utilised like e-bikes and gophers or the mobility scooters. That's been helpful to some people, and obviously having a care worker or a support worker has been really helpful, or even a family member that knows what to do and will go out with you. That's been really helpful. I don't have a lot of people in my life that I can take out with me, so it's usually just me, and I've got to rely on my necklace and my walking stick, and also rely on my own sensibilities to not go out when I'm tired or push it too hard, or So yeah, that's some of the things that people use to help, and I'm in the process of trying to get funding to have a support worker with me, so that I can still go out even when I'm sleepy and know that someone will be there to look after me if I have a fall or if I'm too tired to walk. Just having someone there really keeps you safe, and sort of lessens the anxiety and the whole sort of traumatic experience of it all. And so I'm looking forward to that. That would be great. So yeah, that was a bit of a story of early childhood and how it affected me. and sort of some of the lesser known things that aren't commonly talked about. Now, all of the things that I'm talking about aren't sort of a one-size-fits-all. There are varying degrees of how narcolepsy affects each individual, and I guess that is to do with sort of the levels of sort of impairment or complications with the hypocretin system. Some people might have a little bit of hypocretin, the chemical in the brain. Some people might not have any. Some people might have receptors in the hypocretin system that are broken, that can't transport it. So, you know, it's highly individual, but yeah, some of these symptoms are common that people experience. So I thought I'd just put it out there. I think that's all I wanted to talk about. That's all I can think of for now. So thanks for listening again.